My leading deck choice going into Eternal Week in Europe is Oath and Druids and Show and Tell. We've seen it before, but we gotta make sure we keep practicing so I can come home with the trophy. All right, welcome back, Vintage Gamers. One more league here before I fly off to Europe. This is going to be another test league with Oath of Druids. I have some ideas and some changes we're going to test in this league that might help fix some of the issues I have with the deck in terms of matchups. They're not going to help me fix the deck's ideology issue in my mind, which is that it is, a very all-in A plus B combo deck with lots of A's and lots of B's. I guess you would say like lots of A's, lots of B's, lots of C's. I don't know. Anyways, what we're going to try doing is fixing a weak point in the deck, which is the combo matchup, and also kind of some splash for the counterspell matchup with some thought seizes. Now, you might ask, like, what about Veil of Summer? And my biggest problem with Veil of Summer is having green is pretty prohibitive. You normally want to, fetch, basic, you want to fetch a Tropical Island and an Underground Sea. And so it's not very often you have green. However, Thoughtseizes fits into that role a little bit better, where it's, you have an Underground Sea and you have a Tropical Island. Now you have a Thoughtseizes that can go with your Oath of Druids. And what it'll also do is it'll be proactive against opposing combo decks. This way, Veil is only, keeping our spells from being countered, really. Whereas Thoughtseizes is going to attack my both the Mirror and things like Jewel and Beseech. So I've added a bit of Bayou to kind of help with the mana issue. There's not a whole lot of reason that we need to be forced to an island mana base. The big reason, of course, is like Show and Tell and Flusterstorm and stuff, but it's not like we're playing turn 1 Preordain where we really need a blue source on turn 1. So I'm just going to change one fetch land for one Bayou, and that could be wrong. It might be we're supposed to change the second UC for a Bayou. That could definitely be possible, in which case we will go and add a fetch land back into the deck. But for now, I'm going to try playing with 7 fetchable lands here. I had to change the mana base, the fetch land slightly to accommodate for a green-black land, but all of my blue source fetches here also are fetching green or black. So the main is going to stay the same. I've been talking to some people. They want to cut Tinker Citadel. I don't think you ever want to cut Tinker Citadel. It's so good. It's obviously it's worse in this deck than it is in almost any other Tinker Citadel deck, but it doesn't matter. You have to find ways to win games sometimes that are not Atraxa, and this is definitely a way to do it. Third Oko, I think, is definitely really, really strong and giving you alternative plans, especially in the Mirror. And so in the sideboard, I have to find room to add these 3 Thoughtseize. So what I've done is I've swapped up my anti-graveyard hate, and instead of playing Leyline of the Void, I am instead just going to play the Semmer's Emissaries, the Sphinx of the Steel Winds back. I'm going to put the Tabernacle back in, and then I'm going to go down to 1 Null Rod. The Null Rod had some issues in previous matches, but I think it's something that I want in my deck that I can tutor for at the very least. So the big change here is the ley lines are gone. The Dredge and Graveyard Hate is slightly different, and we're going to play Thoughtseize to help us in the combo matchups. Hopefully this league will go a lot better than some of our previous attempts of playing this deck. It's very volatile. People are ready for it. It's got a big target on its back, so I don't know. We'll just see what happens in round 1. Are you interested in weekly vintage metagame recommendations? Do you want to see your deck list played on my channel? Or maybe you are just looking for the best way to support my vintage content. Make sure you check out the Patreon link in the description below. Let's battle. All right, here we go, chat. We are back. It's weird that even when I don't have chat, I still say, here we go, chat. But I guess that kind of makes sense because sometimes I'll just be in conversation at a normal thing and just say, here we go. Let's talk about this, chat. And oh, man. That's always a tough one to explain. But I am looking at a nice opener of powerful Magic cards, including Flash, Atraxa, Tinker, all with Flusterstorm backup and 6 mana on turn 1. I would rate this as a powerful draw. So we got that going for us, which is nice. This deck really does need powerful draws. It is, in its construction, very much an extremely powerful deck. It's just a very fragile deck and a deck that needs certain pieces to work. So when you have those pieces combining together in the perfect A plus B and A plus B and A plus B, then it all works out pretty well. All right, my opponent also has a Black Lotus. It only seems fair that if I have a Black Lotus, they have a Black Lotus, right? So Magic Online has fixed the issue of draining my whole CPU. That has been hot fixed. However, I don't think the mana situation has been hot fixed yet, so we'll probably have to do a little bit more clicking than normal to cast our spells. They did say that they are going to do an update that will hopefully fix that issue as well. So my opponent is just jamming a Hull Breacher because they needed to use the Black Lotus mana to get an island. Okay, no problem. We don't draw cards. They have 3 cards left in hand, so they really can't have any. Like, the worst thing that could happen to us here is force Mindbreak Trap, I guess. Okay, so I think what we want to do is Mana Crypt, Black Lotus, Tinker. And the reason we want to do that in this order is so that we don't... I just think that we want to give ourselves the most ability to use our Citadel and our land drop and that kind of stuff. What this doesn't let me do is flash in response to a... So if my opponent forces and has like force plus Mindbreak Trap, right? What this doesn't let me do is it doesn't let me play Fluster and Flash in response. But I feel like with 3 cards in my opponent's hand, it makes more sense to just use the Fluster Storm than it does anything else. So if my opponent had 4 cards in their hand, I think I would have played the island out so that I could Flash in response as well, find another force, something like that. Let's go get a Bolas Citadel. We have to remember that we can't... draw cards, but that only comes up for a few things in our deck. So immediately we brick a little bit in that we can't use this. So we have to use our land drop and our flash. Not ideal, but it's probably worth it to keep going off the top. We'll probably put this negation in our hand. We'll put the Force of Will in our hand, the Show and Tell, the Orchard, and the Oath. Seems fine. Okay. I have drawn one of the draw spells in my deck on the top, so there's not that many, right? There's 1, 2, 3. There are 3, and I guess Sensei stop, so 4. They have their own ancestral, or they have their own top. That's fine. No, I could have Ancestral, but I think that I'd rather just take the 3 and we'll continue on. It's worth noting that 1 Atrox is in our yard and 1 is in our hand, so this Oath has some inherent risk into it, but we can always just Show and Tell here as well if we draw Moxen, so... Or we can just cast the Atraxa off the top, which is kind of my favorite thing to do off of Bolas' Citadel. Yeah, that's enough to make them concede, so... I don't know, like, yes. Was this Bolas Citadel bad compared to other Bolas Citadels? Yes. Was it good enough to win the game? Also yes. So that's been my experience. I know people have had different experiences, but for the most part, I've been very happy having Tinker Citadel in my deck, and that's just another example. So we know our opponent is on a Tinker deck, probably a Hull Breacher Tinker deck. The problem is, how do we sideboard for that? Do we actually want a Null Rod? Do we want Vigor? Do we want to bring in Negation Trap? Do we want to have answers? These are all questions that I have to determine before our Eternal Weekends. But what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to take out an island. They're not attacking my mana. I think that's acceptable. And I am going to... I just don't know. Like, I think you want Vigor for, like, Saga, Cage, that kind of thing. But maybe the answer is Trap is not actually what you want. Maybe we're only bringing in Trap against Beseech, PO, Jewel, that kind of thing. Maybe I'm saving Trap for those kind of events. It does still feel like a matchup where you kind of want these negation, right? They have these Tinkers and Twisters and things. The question is, I feel like Thoughtseize is really good here, but what do we take it out for? Maybe we can trim Mystical. Maybe if we think this game is going to go longer, we could trim a Mana Crypt. Maybe if we think that Oko isn't like super relevant in these kind of matchups, we can trim an Oko. Um, I don't know. That those are like the things that come to my mind. Definitely like having Besieges. Don't really want to cut my top if we're still having a Citadel plan. So let's try this. Let's try trimming an Oko, trimming a Mana Crypt, Mystical, and Tinker. Oh, sorry, and Island. That's a plan, right? This hand doesn't do it. This hand also doesn't do it. This hand's closer, though. We can put the Citadel on the bottom. We have access to a negation. We have double draw steps. I might keep this hand. Like, I get it. Hands like this look really bad. And sometimes you keep these hands and you never draw the cards you need to win the game. This actually is a very similar hand to something that I kept in the top 8 of the New York tournament that I went to. But I think that this deck is like trying to do that. Like this deck is trying to keep these, slightly outlandish hands that are missing a, they have an A but they need a B kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe like the argument here would be London Mulligan is so broken. We can mulligan and try to find, land orchard Mox Oath. But I think having more resources is nice. Okay, so they're actually on Grixis. They could be on Breach. Could get Bowmastered here when we probe. I think that would be acceptable. It's more useful for us to see their hand and determine how we want to proceed. So my opponent has Soul Ring, Vampiric, Force, Hull Breacher. So my opponent is going to Vamp for a payoff here and then Tinker with Force backup or something like that. So I think for us, what we'll do is we'll play a Beseiju and a Jet. We'll let them do everything where they draw their payoff, play their Soul Ring, cast their Tinker. We'll negate their Tinker, pushing them down to 0 cards with Force. Let them get whatever they Tinker for, and then Beseiju it. The alternative is we could maybe play Beseiju, play Jet, Demonic for a green card, Vigor Force. But I think that's worse, right? If we do it this way, we just end up with a DT after all of this is said and done. So obviously it leaves us a little susceptible to like something bad happening off the Citadel, but like that's got to be the play that's happening here, right? I guess theoretically my opponent could vamp and they could vamp for an ancestral. That's like a risk averse line maybe. They're clearly not planning to like Hull Breacher Twister me. So all right, Soul Ring comes in. I assume this is Tinker with Force backup. Makes a lot of sense. I pitch Force, pitch cast, Show and Tell, Force. They pitch Hull Breacher to Force of Will. They end up with 0 cards. Their Tinker resolves. They get 1 spell off the top, and then I Beseiju their Citadel. Maybe they get 2 spells off the top. They immediately hit Time Twister. All right. Well, I am going to Beseiju your Citadel anyways. Ay, ay, ay. Well, that is a bad situation to come out of this. Would it have been better? It wouldn't have really been better if I had like DT'd for a green card, right? So they do end up with an extra land here now and a fresh grip. They still have a land drop to give. It's pretty bad for me. But I get a fresh grip too, so. All right, we have a Force of Vigor, an Oath, an Atraxa, a Fluster. Not bad draws at all. I guess I could have let the Twister resolve and then use Beseiju on it, but that gives them more opportunities to cast spells, even though this puts the Twister back in, it puts the Citadel back in their deck. Jeez. So what I'm gonna do is they had this up the whole time. Yeah, I'm just gonna Vigor here at end step. If they want to like play a Hull Breacher in response, that's fine. It will give me the opportunity to play this Oath of Druids. Obviously, if they have a Flusterstorm, it's bad. I think this is just the best use of our timing windows here. Obviously, I could have done this with the Saga trigger on the stack, and that probably was better, to be honest, but almost want them to play a Hull Breacher. It's like actively pretty good for me if they play a Hull Breacher, so a little here, a little there. All right, so I got them to play the Hull Breacher. I'm currently in a fierce conversation on Discord over whether Jewel is PO or Jewel has POs in it, which is basically the most useless conversation of all time. But all right, got my opponent to deploy a Hull Breacher. They have no mana left over, which means that I can play my cards here and I can play them in a way which doesn't run me into Mindbreak Trap and which gives me Flusterstorm backup. So I, of course, have drawn two of my three draw spells into this Hull Breacher. We said 4. We said Sensei's top counts, so 4. 2 of my 4 draw spells into this Hull Breacher. I cracked this now to like avoid like a opposition agent or something, but I can obviously get punished if they have like a 1 strip mine or something like that. They just have Grafdigger's Cage, and I've used a Beseiju in play already. Seems pretty good, and I can't Brainstorm or Probe, so... What do I do now? I have to draw one of my 2 Okos, one of my 1 Vigor, or my 1 Beseiju. I can draw a Show and Tell and then use the Oath trigger. Okay, that's my next plan, I guess. Unfortunately, I'm going to lose pretty hard to counter magic in this scenario, but what's a guy to do? This was the downside to drawing. I mean, drawing 2 Beseijus was pretty nice. All right, so they're actually going to use their mana. This is really good for me because it lets me do something on their and have actual counter magic backup. Oh my gosh, I actually don't have counter magic backup because I don't have double blue because of Beseiju. Never mind then. Never mind then. Never mind. Wow. This went really badly for a game that I thought we had a really good spot in after Probe. I wonder if I could have figured out a better way to go about this. So now I know I'm getting forced because they found a force off of Narset as well. It's just it's all about the fact that we drew both of these into this, right? Like that's the whole problem. with this game. Maybe not. Like if these were simply a land, aren't we just in great shape because we actively have the ability to play show and tell with Flusterstorm backup, and it's not even a huge issue. Even if we draw an Oko now, it doesn't really work. Drew Tinker, so I guess I can get my Tinker countered. I guess that's something. Obviously, there's a Graph Digger's Cage in play, but I think it's fine because if they let this resolve, then I can get a Black Lotus, in which case I can play Show and Tell with Fluster back up next turn. But instead, I just get the Force. So... Oh, but I guess this doesn't actually help me cast my Flusterstorm. That's fine. I mean, next turn I can just put the Atraxa in my hand and try to do that. If they don't like find another counter spell off of this Narset, which I mean they're going to, but I mean it's a good attempt, right? Maybe they'll just find Wheel of Fortune and put me out of my misery. Yeah. It is like extremely frustrating. All right. If I'm Pyro, I mean, it's just unlucky, right? Having Hull Breacher blank. It's just like not very many spells in my deck that Hull Breacher blanks. I guess I should have played that out another turn. I'm sorry. I could have drawn Oko, got it Pyroblasted, then done the show and tell thing. Do we? I still don't really want to play Oko, and negation definitely looks correct into what they're doing. I think we just run it back from here. I should have played that out a little bit longer. It was a little bit of an early concession. All right, so this hand doesn't produce something powerful. It doesn't really have strong reactive spells. It just has a top. Kind of think this is not enough. I mean, we can do things, right? We can play top and spin top. It's not like I have top and a fetch. I'm just gonna mulligan this hand and try for something better. Yeah, this is fine. We have plays. Just gonna keep all the mana. I think it's better than keeping the Oko. Obviously, the Oko is an answer to Cage, but like Cage is a one of in their deck that they have to either get with Saga or like Tutor for usually. Them happen to have it in their hand was a little on the rough side of things. Needle. So that just names Beseiju. That's quite rough because my opponent is likely going to be able to get a Cage off of this Saga, right? I guess I could name Oko. But I am going to get the Atraxa on the turn before, so it's not too bad. If this all resolves and everything works out. Also, Vamp can help me there too, so... All right, so I have an Oath. I have them having a Spirit token. They have or Saga Besage Needle, and like we're very far ahead currently. We also have Vamp Time Walk if we hit an Atraxa beforehand. Could also just get a Vamp for a Force of Vigor, and they just blow them out of the water. Lots of good things happening here. All right, cycle the Saga for Volcanic Island. They kind of have to have Cage in their hand or a Bolt for their Spirit token. Doesn't look like they have either, so we get to run the Atraxa in. This Atraxa milled over Ancestral Tinker, but not Time Walk. I think I would rather just see which cards I get before I Vamp. They could have a Pyroblast or Fluster here, I guess. Didn't mill over any Force of Vigors, which is really nice. My opponent is just off it. You love to see it. I guess theoretically here they could even have Pyroblast on Atraxa with the trigger on the stack and then we do get an Atraxa trigger, but we don't have a thing, and then they can go get a cage with the Saga. In that kind of scenario, we would simply vamp for a Force of Vigor. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think one more card maybe. So we would get a Time Walk. I mean, a Time Walk is simply beating this as well because we're just getting another Atraxa. So we would just get a Time Walk and then get a new Atraxa and have Force back up, and it's just free. Okay. It's a really solid win, really impressive win. Very happy with this win. We didn't actually get to cast Thoughtseize, but at least we had a defined plan for what we were trying to do. Okay, not a bad one, not a bad one. Oh, I just realized that the MTG bot looks a wee bit broken. So I will give you guys the league score in my text here. This this Magic Online update has gone less than ideally for Daybreak. All right, my opponent has revealed a cat, very shiny cat. I have a I don't have a Force, but I have Vamp into a Force for Oath, Time Walk, or I can Show and Tell a Citadel, or I mean, I have all kinds of options here, which is great. So. All right, Tundra, that's interesting. So just Jeskai then. Oath is a little bit worse against Jeskai than Blue-Black because Jeskai has some spells in their deck that can deal with it. I guess what I'll do here is I'll just Vamp for Force, right? Is there any reason to do something else? Like, theoretically, you could Vamp for a... Theoretically, I could Vamp for a Lotus and go Orchard, Oath, Time Walk. But that's like a little all-in for no reason. It'd be kind of cool if I had a Daze in my deck, but it's a little hard to play Daze in your Strip Mine Orchard, 4 Orchard, 2 Beseju deck, especially with the added Bayou. I think even though I really like the Show and Tell in this hand, I guess I could just pitch the Time Walk to Force and keep the Show and Tell. I guess this could always get Mental Misstep as well. I guess there's a world where I simply pitch the Time Walk to Force. Because that's going to give me... Like, I'm already going to win if I resolve any Atraxa triggers, right? So it's not like this Time Walk is super relevant. And I'd like to be able to Show and Tell a Citadel. Nah, I'm going to take the Time Walk. It might be... I'm not actually sure if it's 100% correct, but I think I'd like to have this Time Walk. Time Walk has been very crucial, and whenever I like have a Time Walk in my yard already, or I've exiled my Time Walk, I always feel a little bit sad. All right, so my opponent can have something like a Prismatic Ending here, which would be bad for me. Lavinia. All right, so Lavinia is not going to be bad for me. Also, it makes this Citadel really bad, so the Show and Tell was a lot worse. That was something I was thinking about when I was thinking about Show and Tell. If I Show and Tell a Citadel and they Show and Tell in a Lavinia, it's not very good. My opponent does have plenty of answers probably in their deck to actual factual Atraxa, Pyroblast, Swords to Plowshares, etc. It might be interesting in post-board to bring in some Sarah's Emissaries. I don't know if it'll be correct, but it might be interesting to do so. Here I hit all Moxen. All right, so I will take a second Oath, and I guess I won't take Atraxa. What I might do... These are all going on the bottom, and there's 2 more Atraxas in my deck. Because I'm pretty sure I would like to try to Time Walk and then get another Oath trigger, because these spells are bad. Like, realistically, these spells were not good. I guess the question becomes, do I think I want to take these cards out of my deck, though, still. I think I also want to keep the Atraxa in my deck. The question is, do I want to shuffle so that these cards get shuffled back in and I have like a higher chance of Atraxa being near the top? think the answer to that question is just yes. I think the shuffle part is the shuffling the bad cards is unfortunate, but I guess I could simply Oko this Lavinia, and that will let me play my Sapphire. Okay, I should probably have taken Black Lotus then. That was a mistake. I wasn't really thinking about that, but if I had taken Black Lotus, it would have been better. That way I can have more mana, but this is okay too. All right, my opponent has just conceded a Time Walk. Makes some sense to me. The question is, does it make sense for us to play a Sarah's Emissary so that we don't have... Like, the problem with Atraxa against these Jeskai decks is that they have Pyroblast and Swords, right? Maybe they don't play Swords post-board, but, like... I kind of think no, but what I will do is bring in Portal, because they are inherently a creature deck. So I don't suspect my opponent will be playing Saga. So I'm not going to bring in Vigor. I'm going to leave my artifact removal for Beseiju and Oko. I don't think the creatures they play are so strong that I need to bring in Dismember. I'd like to just use my Oath for that. But I do think a Portal has some value. I don't actually think Negation is good because I don't think they have a lot of cards that are actually worth hitting. But Thoughtseize does make a lot of sense to me here. So I think what I'll do is I do think they'll play Wasteland, so I'll leave in my island. And then I'm going to take out one Mystical, one Negation, one Mana Crypt. I don't think I'll take out Oko in this matchup in comparison to the Tinker matchup because I do think Oko's actually good here in a kind of a grindy setup. Do I want to trim a Show and Tell? I might just trim a Show and Tell because of how bad it is against like Pyrofluster, etc. And we'll try playing these Thoughtseize in this matchup. Oh, I can trim the Strip Mine. I should have trimmed the Strip Mine instead because the Strip Mine is not helping me against anything really. Ooh, it's a little cold in here. Sorry. Kind of trying to resist the urge to turn on the heat. See what Trogdor has in store for us here. All right, so my hand does have an Atraxa, does have lands and spells, and so this is actually a hand that I am questioning recently because it's a good Magic hand. It's a good Vintage hand. It has good cards against my opponent's deck, but it doesn't do my plan A or like doesn't do any of my plans, right? I'm missing an Oath. I'm missing a Show. I'm missing a Flash. And I kept a hand like this in that same New York tournament versus Joe Brennan on Blue Black Luris, and I lost because I really didn't do anything powerful. And I had an opportunity to do things powerful because of the way he mulliganed, and I just wasn't able to capitalize on it. And I just can't imagine I'm supposed to put something like this back, but it does make me think maybe I'm misevaluating these kind of hands. But this might be one of the better mental misstep matchups in the format too. I've got a land that can't be wastelanded and now a fetch land. So my opponent's deck leans pretty heavily on things like Ancestral, Misstep, and Pyroblast. Missteps should be really good. Even if they go like a Ragavan here, Misstep is really good. Jeez. Okay. It's a lot of mana. They're gonna cast Lavinia. I think I just want to force back on this Lavinia here. Pitch my Atraxa. Obviously, this is like a win for them because they can always rebuy. But oh, they're gonna go Pyroblasting here. Wonder if they have like a Dreadhorde after. Lavinia turns off my Force and Mental Misstep, which is the reason I'm willing to like super cash in on it. Looks like they're tapped out 3 cards in hand. They've used their Pyroblast. They probably don't have another Pyroblast. Puts us in a pretty good spot to just like Time Walk Oko, right? Let's go get a black and green land. Oh, maybe this is the time for the Bayou. I'm on turn 2, so I can't play this Beside You yet. Let's go to turn 3. Mox. Okay, that's actually really interesting because the Mox lets us actually extract value from our Oko immediately, which I'm really happy about. Because I don't like when I play an Oko, make a food, and then immediately get Pyroblasted. I hate that a lot. So let's just stand up this Pearl. Also lets us play around Daze, which is kind of fun. And not that I think they have a Daze at that point, but... Wasteland. Sure. It's like a little late to be playing a Wasteland now. Though we did just lose our black mana. Got our black mana back. All right. I think we're firmly in the driver's seat of this game. Even if they do have a exactly Pyroblast, which is basically the only answer to this. I guess they could have a Prismatic Ending for 3. We have a... Oko. Okay, yeah. Containment Priest. It's not a big deal. We're currently not trying to cheat anything in, but it's a good thing to know about. Very good against our deck. So if I thought they had Containment Priest, which I probably should have thought they had Containment Priest, I would not have not boarded in Dismember. So I should have boarded in Dismember. Definitely was a misplay on my part. Looks like they found another Pyroblast off the top. They only have 1 card left in hand, though, so I shouldn't have any trouble resolving another Oko here. Yeah, I guess this case I can get another... So how many black spells are there in the deck? There's Thoughtseize, Demonic, Vamp. I think I'd rather have 2 green lands in case I get Wastelanded. Could be wrong, but... I'm hoping that after I do this Oko, I shouldn't have any problems winning this game. My opponent is lamenting that they were very ready for Oath of Druids, but not ready to beat Oko control. And that's kind of the big reason that you want to play a bunch of Okos in your deck. Just giving yourself the way to play through hate and having this powerful option, plan B, or I guess plan C in this case, is very important. Looks like they'll probably just put the Lurrus back in hand here. They might attack Oko just so I can't steal Lurrus. Thoughtseize. Oh, I was instantly punished. I could have Thoughtseized the Lurrus here. So they can, if they hit a land, they could replay Lavinia. I'm just gonna give myself the ability to use my Oko and turn it into a Lurrus if I want. I guess my Lurrus can't replay Oko, so maybe that play just sucks. Okay, so maybe I was supposed to get the Underground Sea because of top deck Thoughtseize and because of exactly Lurrus. I didn't consider that, and that's probably bad. Looks like my opponent is opting not to play Lurrus, and instead is just going to go cycling for answers. This also works out for me because I can just turn this into a lethal attacker. Yeah, maybe I'm supposed to get Underground Sea. I just didn't think about this exact sequencing. Wow, they didn't get a white source. They got a red source. I think they're supposed to get a white source here, so they have ability to play Lurrus, but maybe it doesn't matter. GG's. Yeah, okay, I don't really like how I played those last set of turns, but I like the idea of what we did, so. All right, let's do it again. Another very acceptable hand. I've been pretty happy with my hands that I've drawn in these sets. Can't remember what this person plays, but they're online all the time. Doesn't really matter what they play, right? I'm always keeping this hand against every deck in the entire format. There's just not a single deck where you wouldn't keep this hand. It has all the things you're looking for, right? P.O. Esper Tinker. Interesting. Workshop, so probably Jewel. It's a little unfortunate. Hopefully a negation on a payoff spell is enough here. Yeah, I think it's better to hit a payoff spell than to hit fast mana. Though hitting a blue source is definitely there's an upside to hitting a blue source. Hitting this blue source means they can't like PO on my upkeep, right? Normally, it's very hard for my opponent's deck to find blue sources to cast blue spells. I'm just worried though because I need this negation to hit something that matters. Yeah, all right, time walk. They have a ring as well. If they had a ring, it's a really strong hand, but they're down to 2 cards though, so that means they can't have force backup. So at the very least, we can counter something. Though I guess if they, like I said, if they PO me in my upkeep, that's the worst possible outcome. Doesn't look like that happened, so I'm just going to. Oh, I'm dumb. I should lead Orchard, and that way, if I draw a Moxen off of this, I can play my Oath. Very silly. Don't know. I was like, oh, they did have PO. I don't understand. They should just PO me in my upkeep. Okay. Well, this was like what I was trying to avoid, and I did a very poor job of avoiding it. But they also had second Opal, so if I negated Opal and they played second Opal, I would have been a lot sadder too. What? So why aren't they POing at all? What's the reasoning behind that? So my negations, my Flusterstorm actually was good for me on my last turn here if they had end step PO'd because I could, but now it's not good if they upkeep because they can actually just pay. But they're just continuing to not do it. So I don't understand. I don't really understand my opponent's line of reasoning here. But I think this is a totally normal spot to just jam an Oath. Don't think it makes sense. Yeah, just jam an Oath, and that way if they want to counter it, then I have Flusterstorm up. And I actually have more Storm now than they have mana to pay. So I don't know what the reasoning behind my opponent keeping this PO this entire time is, but I can't imagine it was right. I think on my upkeep on the first turn of the game was the perfect time. But hopefully this negation is enough, and then we'll just draw more forces and should be totally fine. Now, actually, we have hard cast negation. Because we hit this Moxen, we have hard cast negation in my upkeep as well. So my opponent has kind of lost the thread here. I do have to negate this PO for what it's worth. But I think that's acceptable as well. Oh, Karn. Guess that could have a cage in their sideboard, so we should just negate this. And we know that their hand is Opal PO, and they can't cast the PO, so they're just super doomed. Classic Workshop mana PO deck. All right, good news. I mean, our Traxxas does still need to find us another force, really. But that's usually a thing that it can do. Force, Atraxa, Emerald, Island, Show. Done. Draw. And we actually know their entire hand, so we know there's no Jewel or anything, which means we can actually show, and there's no Jewel and there's no Metamorph. We can actually show another Atraxa to just get another refill of hand. Which I think I'll definitely do. Is there any reason not to play this land out? I don't think so. Because my opponent doesn't, I know my opponent's hand, so there's no downside to this. Hold open green for Beseiju. Still have hold open Flusterstorm. Yeah, I can't think I can lose from here. I don't really think I was supposed to win this game. I think if my opponent simply played in my upkeep, my opponent would have lost probably if they had played, even if they had just jammed into it. Say they had just jammed into negation, right? We negate it, but then we have to deal with a Karn. I guess we don't have to deal with it. I guess, yeah, we would have to deal with a Karn. So, like, even if they had played, like, poorly around negation, right? They would still have had a better shot than the way they did it. But I think if my opponent simply plays around negation and puts a PO on the stack in my upkeep, they probably win this game. So kind of an odd setup there. All right, so here's a. This is great. This is good. I haven't played this matchup enough. I wanted to test the sideboard plan where I have a Null Rod, I have Thought Seizes, and I have Vigors, Negation, and Trap. I have to become somewhat of a controlling deck here. I guess there's a question on whether I need this Strip Mine or not. Let's just take an island out for now. A Mana Crypt. What I might do is like take out Tinker Citadel. Oh, no, I mean, no, that can't be right. It's got to be just like all of my show and tells or most of my show and tells. Show and tell is really bad in this matchup, right? Like show and tell is might be at its absolute worst. They have Jewel. They have what the why you do this, Discord? They have they have Jewel. They have Metamorph. I'm just gonna take a quick peek because I think this might actually be one of my first Jewel matchups in a really long time. I have some notes somewhere about just a general idea of sideboarding for Jewel. Things like Null Rod, Negation, Vigor, Trap in, Island, Tops, Soul Rings, Show and Tells, Ponders out. I don't have a lot of those cards in my deck. I don't have Soul Rings or Ponders anymore. So I'm going to take out 3 Show and Tells at least. Leave me with 1. I guess we take out the top. Do we keep in the Citadel? I guess we can keep in the Citadel. I'm not exactly sure how good the Okos are going to be or how good the Flusterstorms really are. I'm going to try taking out the Strip Mine. I know it's an answer to Saga, but I just need to find cuts here. And I'm thinking the Strip Mine might be one of the weaker cards. Maybe Mental Misstep is not that good. Mental Misstep seems like it's not that good. Let's try that. Well, Probe is like not probably necessary either, really. But let's try this. You have to keep in enough blue cards for Force as well. Definitely my first time mapping it with the Thought Seizes. The Thought Seizes add a bunch of cards. All right, so my hand has. Wow. I mean, we are running hot. Like if I can have this hand in every round of the Eternal Weekend, I will snap off Oath and say thank you, RNGesus, because this is exactly what this is like perfect. This is Force. This is a Mind Break Trap against my combo opponent. This is a turn 1 Oath. I mean, you really can't ask for much more than this. Something to note is my opponent, probably on the recent Jewel lists, will probably play defense grids, which are quite annoying. Tinker. You need an artifact to tinker off of. They're just going to tinker off of it. All right, well, I'm just going to cash in my Mind Break Trap. Obviously, that has some downsides into an opponent that might have, like a Fluster or something, but I think it's better to just cast my Mind Break Trap in with the Force behind it. I think it just makes more sense that way. I drew a blue card, so I'm just going to probe them and see what their last cards are. Saga, Metamorph. So they will try to... Yeah, I mean, this is just... It's just lost for them. Super lost. They're not going to be able to have Force backup. I can force their Metamorph, so they're relying entirely on a Saga. It won't beat an Atraxa. It's just lost. Drew a defense grid. I think this is fine. I just hold open my mana to counter the Metamorph. Could also just like hit Besage you off this Atraxa. There's like a lot of things that can happen here. I milled over 13, including 1 Besage, 1 Vigor, 1 Null Rod. Worth noting. I'm going to take Black Lotus, Orchard. I don't know if it matters if I take Orchard or C. I'm just going to take Orchard so I have... I mean, now I can hold up 2 spells, so it's pretty doomed for them. Orchard, Oath. Force number 2 attracts it. I mean, I don't need more cards after this, so this is fine. I'm just going to win with 3 attacks, and I'm going to hold up double Force, and they can't win, so... Could also like draw a Thought Seize actually and take the Metamorph out of their hand. It's kind of really good here too. A card that's been coming up in discussions recently has been Gaia's Blessing. I know some people have been trying to play Gaia's Blessing in their deck. I don't really have any. I don't really like that card very much. I think it's the big upside of playing 4 tracks is you don't have to play cards like Gaia's Blessing in your deck. So I wouldn't really recommend that one. Kind of feels win more. There obviously are some upsides in like looping back all your cards and never worrying about getting decked and that kind of thing, but my opponent is not gonna even bother with the Metamorph. I guess they'd rather make a construct. This is fine with me. I am just gonna draw naturally and hold open all of my stuff. You're dead in a few turns, and I'm not really worried. I guess like theoretically they could draw, I don't know, a second Metamorph. I don't know, a second something and have a ton of mana or something. I don't know what the plan is. Oh, I have to fetch in response to this thing, just so I don't get needled. Top makes sense. I could even play hard cast force through defense grid, 8 mana. So yeah, I mean, that didn't look too bad, but I do think my opponent helped me a little bit in game 1, and then I just had Mindbreak Trap in game 2, so didn't really get to try out my Thought Seizes or Null Rods, which is unfortunate, but the fact that we win the match without them is a nice little sign. All right, this league inspires a lot more confidence than the last couple of matches of Oath I've played, that's for sure, but maybe just good variance this time. I think by the time this video goes up, I'll probably have aired a second Oath video of a prelim where I basically lose my mind. So I didn't have good vibes going into my New York City event. The New York City event went well enough where I like started 3-0, got to double draw in, and then lost the quarter. So I didn't even get to play that much Magic, really. Someone who played every round of Magic actually played more Magic than I did, have making the top 8, which is kind of sad. It's a little bit nice that the Magic Online makes you play things out. All right, so my opponent is... We're finally playing an Oath Mirror. My opponent has the Orchard advantage, which means that I have to force this. An unfortunate reality of forcing this is I don't have an Atraxa to show and tell in, but I could force pitching Ancestral, but that just seems like insanity. Another force. So theoretically, I can play around negation by playing this Ancestral on their upkeep. And I can play around, and I'm not exposing myself to Flusterstorm because I have a Mana Crypt. So that makes sense to me. We can just go for an upkeep Ancestral. It does maybe play into something weird from them, but... All right, so now I have a Force and a Besiege You. So I actually have an uncounterable answer to a second Oath. The thing I'm now worried about is getting showed on probably or tinkered while I'm tapped out of blue mana. I like the spot we're in currently. I don't know if the Spirit token actually races a Mana Crypt, but doesn't look like they're on my list considering they have a Soul Ring, which is worth noting. All right, no play. So they do get to filter their draws with a Sensei's Top, but they don't have a fetch land to like spin away bad cards. I did have to play my Mana Crypt to play around Flusterstorm, which exposes me to issues as well. I have on a hard cast Atraxa coming and a backup plan for show and tell. So this is a good spot now. I actually think we're in a great spot now because I have good counters, good backup plans for oaths and show and tells that resolve. A hard cast Atraxa is not too far in the future. Though I do need a white source. Excuse me. Another land. Actually, they have a hard cast Atraxa in one land as well. Might need my force for that. I held my probe because I think I need the blue card. Spin now. Interesting. Okay. What's my best draw, really? I guess maybe Orchard is my best draw. The Oath Mirror is weird, but I kind of enjoy it. It's definitely a different style of Magic. But it's definitely a style of Magic that I kind of like more than the actual deck plays. Oath is definitely my worst draw, because I'm currently not winning the Orchard battle. I don't have an Orchard of my own. That is definitely the worst draw in my deck. Every other draw I think is better than that. If I somehow gain Orchard superiority, then the Oath becomes good again, but I don't really think that's going to happen. I would have to draw an Orchard and then Besage their Orchard, right? They're going to spin again. Recheck here. Sure. I haven't lost my crypt flips, though, so that's been helpful. My Spirit token doesn't look like it'll erase the crypt flip in general, though, right? So that's a problem, but second Orchard. All right, so this Oath is going to be dead forever. My opponent has the things, but if they go for a hard cast Atraxa here, it's actually really good for us. We have Force plus Fluster, and then we have 3 Spirits to help us race. We could maybe win with Spirits. All right, so I'm going to play Force, and I'm going to pitch Probe. I'm going to do that because I'd like to hard cast this Atraxa possibly. And if they draw and find a blue card, then we still have Flusterstorm, so. Did they set it up that way? Nice. Well played, opponent. All right, so my opponent set up a nice hard cast Atraxa with Force backup, but I have the answers. And I'm going to end up with a bunch of Spirit tokens here. I could Besage my opponent, but it doesn't actually keep them off of anything, so don't think I'm going to do that. If I draw a white Moxen, I can play Atraxa. I drew a Citadel. Interesting. I think I'm still supposed to hold Besage in case my opponent jams an Oath, right? $13 life. We know that they get a top and spin a top. They can't cast another Atraxa this turn, and they can't show and tell us this turn, but they can... They can Oath us. I wonder if I was supposed to pitch Atraxa and just keep the probe and like cycle the probe. Nah, probably not, right? My tokens definitely race the crypt now. Brainstorm's a great draw into this held fetch that I've had for the whole game. Can turn this Oath into a real card. Gonna do this now. Cool. So let's turn this Oath and... So if I'd played Besage last turn, I could have spun into a Citadel this turn. That's kind of frustrating, right? Hmm. I have hard cast Atraxa next turn, but I also could go looking for like Force or Time Walk or something. If my opponent plays an Atraxa on this turn, how do I win? That's my real problem, right? If my opponent spins here, finds an Atraxa, and casts an Atraxa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can kill the Soul Ring with a Besage. And then give myself the ability to mystical. I'm not really sure I'm supposed to put the Citadel back, though. I can have triple black if I want triple black. I don't really need another land. But if I use a Beseiju and then I want to cast a Traxa, I do. All right, whatever. I'm going to put the Citadel and the Oath back. I'm going to play my fetch lands. I'm going to go to their turn. I'm going to let them spin one more time. And then I think the only way you would keep this on top is if you had an Atraxa, right? Well, I guess you don't have a choice, but I'm worried that if I Beseiju this, that gives them more looks for an Atraxa, right? But if I Beseiju this, they need a land and an Atraxa. Because they'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, I'm worried that this is a play that gives my opponent a complete look at 3 new cards, but I think like I'm beating an Oath, so I think it's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So they can float mana and spin, but at least they can't hard cast an Atraxa. I'm definitely not supposed to do that in like draw step, right? So they're gonna spin, they're gonna shuffle, get a land, and then they can spin again. Yeah. So I guess if they spin again, they could still find a Traxa and a land on top, right? And then draw the land with Sensei's top and get an Atraxa in play. And then I have to beat it with my mystical. I guess I can beat it by just casting Atraxa of my own now with Orchard. What can I mystical for that? They just have an Oath. Okay. So they have 1 unknown now. I guess I don't actually have a mystical target that beats Oath of Druids. I guess I do because I have Demonic. So I can Demonic for a Beseiju here. Hope I don't get negated. I could Time Walk. That'll put them to 4. I could Oko. What if I just get Flash and I cast Flash? What's the percentage chance I hit Beseiju or Demonic off Flash? Beseiju Demonic. If I hit Beseiju Demonic or Time Walk off of Flash, so I have 3 hits, and I'm just gonna Demonic for Beseiju. I know my opponent. I guess my opponent can shuffle away the Sensei's top, but lost the flip. Demonic. Seiju that. I guess this lets them hard cast Atraxa again. I'm not convinced that I played this game correctly. They are gonna hardcast Traxa again. No, this is different. Lorien revealed, maybe? Nice. It's really good here. Though an oath doesn't put them dead on board, so interesting. All right, casting this Atraxa does give them a spirit token. Does that matter? I think so. See if they have force for this. Yeah, they do. Oh, it does matter because I guess they weren't dead anyways because they were at 3. Oh, all right. Like an Oko here is bad for me, right? Ancestral? I'm gonna lose this game? Man, that Sensei's top was broken, huh? I must have had a better way to proceed through this game. There's just no way the way I played this game out was correct, right? Was I too cautious? I must have just misplayed this game horrendously. Or is it just because I didn't have... I mean, I didn't have Ancestral to draw to at all. I mean, I could have had a Beseiju in this game, right? Or sorry, I could have had a Citadel in this game instead of an Atraxa, and I would have gotten forced as well. So this game is still winnable if this Atraxa hits no force, and then I draw... Never mind, they have Time Walk. All right. I really don't think I'm supposed to lose this game, so it must have been something I did. I'm gonna have to go back and look. It really feels like I threw this game, and I must have had a better way forward. Pretty frustrating, though. All right, so sideboard. I'm gonna bring in these, and I'm gonna bring in Portal. I like Portal in this matchup. I like Negation and this, and I like Thought Seizes. And then I don't want Island. I think Strip Mine is good. I don't want any Show and Tells or any Oaths. Just one of each left that I can tutor for, but we're not trying to play that game. And then I have to think. I think I want to have access to A Vigor. I think that's better than having an Emissary or a Sphinx. Without taking out all the Oaths and the Show and Tells. So, all right. So we're gonna play some Oko Control here and see how that goes. Yeah, I have to imagine that I threw that game, but it's hard for me to say. This hand has an Orchard and a Strip Mine and a Force, so I'm going to keep it. Don't want to use the Orchard right away, but it does give me the ability to beat an opposing Oath. Don't think I want to show it right away because I would like my opponent to play an Oath if they can. This Bayou is definitely worse than a fetch land here. That's something to worth noting as well. Something we're testing out. Mox. Good start. Mox. All right, they have like infinite mana. Thoughtseize. I don't think playing a land first helps me at all, so show me your secrets, I guess. Force, show and tell. They'd rather just take the force out of their hand, right? I guess not. I guess we'll just take their show. Because they have hard cast force, so maybe that's not the case. All right, well, we're gonna sit here for a little. I guess now they can have hardcast Atraxa. No, they can't hardcast Atraxa. They don't have a white source yet. All right. This looks like a pretty reasonable upkeep. Rainstorm. The reason I don't want to do it on my turn is I don't want to give them the ability to tap all of their stuff on my turn. Interesting. So I think what we do is we simply 1, 2, 3 force oath. 3, 6, 7. I don't need an additional. I force Flusterstorm. Just simply put a strip mine and a Bola Citadel back, and then I draw the Bola Citadel and use it. Don't fetch. I get back both of that's what I'll do. I just won't fetch here. Looks like we're going Citadeling. What did they draw? 1, 2, 3, 4. If I play Lotus, am I gonna have enough to beat a force on my thing? Can't really let them have this, so the problem is if they have blue card, I mean, I guess if they blue card force, they'll do it now, right? To get the Oko in play. They're not gonna hold blue card force. If they hold blue card force and they get me with this, it's really good, right? I don't have the ability to play multiple spells, so I can only play Lotus first. It's not enough. I guess this is Storm 2, and then their spell is Storm 3, so it's exactly enough. Wow. Okay, hold on. The Black Lotus was lit. I did the math wrong. All right, they're out of cards in hand. They have 1 Spirit, and I have a Citadel. I sure like that. They drew Atraxa, so that show and tell could have been in play at some point here. All right, so Mystical lets us start here with a Time Walk. Or an Ancestral. Time Walk has got to be better. Bigger. Yeah, that's fine. Oath is sick here for sure. I don't have to do that right away. In fact, I probably shouldn't. All right. Let's go to my next turn. Get an unbeatable thing. Put a force in my hand, and my opponent should just concede, I would assume. Really good Citadel. One of the better Citadels I've seen from this deck. Did all the things I really needed it to do. All right, let's grab an Atraxa, a Force, a Boseiju, an Oko, a Portal, a land. Pretty solid thrashing there. I thought these didn't matter too much because it just took a show and tell, but the Bayou cast it, which was nice. Okay, definitely a nice controlling hand. Let's see what happens. I'll have to really go review the first game of this set because we were in such a commanding spot. I had like everything covered. I must have played too passively, or maybe I like got the wrong two targets, or maybe the Besaju on the Soul Ring was bad. Something must have been wrong there. All right, so let's start with. Let's probably just start with Show Me Your Secrets. Besaju, Show and Tell, Negation Orchard. Okay. I currently don't have any lands in my hand, but I have a million counter spells. They do have double Besaju for a Citadel, which is annoying. I don't actually have a Needle in my deck, so I can't really stop that from happening, but I will still Tinker for a Citadel. Well, didn't hit a land, even though we were on the draw and had a probe. Did take out an island, I guess. They hit a land. Okay. All right, we hit a land. Will we Tinker? So the problem now is they actually have hard cast negation. Though if they hard cast negation, it's actually much better for us. Because they can't Besage right away, so we could force back. It feels like I'm supposed to wait, especially with I'm not overdrawing yet or anything. Kind of would rather them go in for like a show and tell on their turn instead, where we can just get them with trap and stuff. I'll make them use their mana, try to tap them out of Besaju. They hit a land. I mean, if we miss on a land drop here, we didn't miss. They might negate this, to be honest. It's quite a good negate target, I would think. All right, so now they have 2 unknowns, mana advantage. We have a million counters. Pass. Definitely gonna get one of these things cracked here. Let's go see what we can find. All we're really looking for is to hit land drops. Yep, land drops. I actually don't think Demonic is better. I think just simply hitting these land drops for the next 2 turns is going to set us up in a much healthier way. And then we can consider later. We definitely have like a card quality advantage over our opponent. 1 Besage down. All right, we will simply, I guess we can spin just to see what our 3rd card down is. If it's another land, I guess we can put it ahead. If another Fluster. I don't think that's ahead of this, but maybe it is. Maybe we fetch and just try to find more lands, right? It's possible too. I simply feel as is, we should just be winning on card quality, right? I guess my opponent has the Orchard advantage still. We could always DT for an Orchard, actually. Don't know if that's worth doing. I'm gonna hard cast negation on this. If they have Fluster follow-up, we can trap the whole stack, too. I'm gonna Fluster... Two copies on that, and 2 copies on this. Veil. Boom, boom, boom. Trap the stack. I guess I theoretically could go get another Flusterstorm if I wanted to, but Feel like just getting that value off of my trap is just better, right? I used all... Right, so they have 2 cards unknown with Beseiju and Show and Tell in their hand. We can untap with Tinker Fluster, right? Okay, we'll simply spin this into a Flusterstorm. And now they're actually tapped out of Beseiju as well, so... This is like, I think, just playing the matchup in a really intelligent way that... And then playing, like, we're turn the matchup into a control mirror where I have better cards than my opponent, and then simply play like a more solid game of Magic than them. All right, so here we get 2 fetch lands. We have the ability to tinker while they're tapped out. I have a top as well. This is just lethal very much. We've navigated this board to a really strong spot where our opponent really, I don't think made the, they had to do something. They felt pressured to do something, and so we just came out really far ahead. I can just elk a spirit token. Unfortunately, I do have to like keep going because my opponent does have a Beseiju. So we gotta go look for Time Walk really, but should hold priority on that. I didn't. Is it worth going to 1 to cast Atraxa? I actually don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think I'd rather just draw it, have double force. All right, so the DT gets us back a Time Walk. All right, that seems like it's good enough here. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Let me stand up this. Hit them for 6. And then put this in play. See if I can get 10 permanent somehow. Emerald, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Emerald is 9. And Vampiric Tutor for another Moxen is 10. Sack and kill them. All right. GG's. I think I probably should have won that 3-0, but I must have been a mistake in game 1 that I'm going to have to go back and look at. All right, here we are for our trophy match. We're up against our good friend Eric, the Doomsday aficionado over in Japan. Definitely go support his content. Helps us out a lot for Sunday Data. One of the few people doing Sunday Data right now, which is unfortunate because it's not good to have one person doing it alone. So if you can help with Sunday Data, let me know. But definitely a big shout out to Eric for helping there. So let's kick his butt. They're on most likely on Doomsday. Our matchup versus Doomsday is not great. This hand is probably helpful enough. Unfortunately, this hand doesn't actually get Force of Will off this Mystical. Maybe this hand's actually just bad. I should have maybe mulliganed this hand. Because I can't actually play turn 1 Oath against them because they're not a creature deck. And it's not like I can mystical for a force because I need the creature to show and tell with it. So I guess this is just a mystical for an ancestral then, which I guess is like that's still fine. I guess that's still fine. I just don't think this is beating Doomsday, right? It's just not beating a Doomsday 7. That's what I'm worried about. If this hand, I mean, this hand would be really good, I guess, if it had an Orchard, because then I could just mystical for force and then go Orchard Oath. All right. I'm not thrilled with this hand, and I kind of think it's going to come out badly on the other side, but I don't really know what else I can really do about it, so. All right, let's go for a mystical, see what they do. If they could counter this with a fluster or something, then we could maybe just jam show and tell. Just go get an ancestral recall. And then I'm going to play this Besage You out and ancestral on their upkeep, where I have the ability to pay for Fluster Storm. Do they have their own ancestral? Let's see what happens here. Just force pitching Dress Down. Okay. Well, I'm kind of glad my Attracted didn't get Dressed Down, so. And we got a force out of their hand. And this is an upkeep mystical, maybe? No. No reason not to draw your card for turn unless you're drawing for a mystical. Maybe they have an ancestral of their own and they've just been waiting. Misty Rainforest. Brainstorm. Preordain. Okay. One top, one bottom. All right, well, I don't really have good draws here besides Orchard. Orchard's a good draw. All right. It's better for me to play Oath than for me to play Show and Tell, and the reason is because of Flusterstorm. So I'm going to play this Oath of Druids to see what they do. I'm not going to show them this Orchard. All right, well, they got the Doomsday kill me here. If they do, we die. If they don't, well, it looks like they're just going to Vampiric at the end step then and kill me. There's just nothing I can do. My opponent had a force and they have a kill, and I just have nothing to. There's nothing I can do. This matchup is so bad. Every Doomsday matchup is so bad. Deck is so good. I guess I could have gone Show and Tell, right? That's what I could have done. I just think that's such a bad play into like possible Flusterstorm, but. All right, so all they need to do for this Doomsday is simply have a cantrip in their hand for it to be killing me. There's just not much I can do here. I needed to have a force in my hand. It's pretty impossible to beat Doomsday without a force in your hand. Hopefully, maybe post-board this matchup gets a little bit better, but I guess we have Thoughtseizes. Maybe that'll help. But I mean, I can't imagine we win this game unless my opponent hand has no cantrips in it. But I don't know. I like the way we played it. We got a force Dress Down out of their hand, and then yeah, maybe I was supposed to jam Show and Tell. Like, what's the probability my opponent kills me from here? I guess it's like fairly like if I thought they had a mystical, right? So if I think they have a mystical, then the probability they kill me is fairly high. So maybe that means we're just supposed to jam Show and Tell. Yeah, they just have a cycler. Now they gush. The game ends. What a disgusting deck. It's so broken. It's okay. They have two they have two Dress Downs main. Yikes. Yeah. I'm not seeing a lot of Fluster Storms in their yard, so It could be they just had a Flusterstorm and they had a kill. Though I guess if they use a Flusterstorm, then am I still dead? Yeah, I'm actually still dead because they have a Street Wraith as their cycler. So if they had a Flusterstorm, they actually kill me through it anyways. That's crazy. All right. Well, can we win games 2 and 3? I've got to bring in Thought Seizes and Mindbreak Trap and Negation. It's pretty good. Could bring in Null Rod as well if we think it's good. Strip Mine's probably fine, but Island is pretty bad. Oko is usually just garbage in this matchup. Oath is like kind of bad in this matchup too, but I don't really know if I have like. I guess we don't need a Besiege You. It's not like they play like a Cage or something, right? We might just not need any Besiege Yous. That's going down on a lot of lands, but maybe that's just acceptable. I don't think they play a Cage or anything. So let's go down Besiege Yous and Okos and Island. And one more. I think I want one Oko. I want all my fast mana. I want all my counters. Maybe it's like mystical. All right, let's try this. I mean, we definitely get better post board. We probably get a lot better against them than they do against us post board, considering we're bringing in a suite of Thoughtseizes. This stinks, man. Like, I can't really afford to play this hand out, right? Like, I have to play this hand out, right? I have too much counter magic to put this hand back. I'm just not pressuring them with this hand, but I don't know. I have a Force and a Mindbreak Trap. Maybe that's like not the way to think about this. And then like if I keep a hand like this, they'll just grind me to death with all the cantrips. Maybe I have to mulligan this. It's gonna be a rough way to lose my 5-0. But it is what it is. It's definitely one of the hardest matchups for us, which is why we have the Thoughtseizes. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna deploy the Moxen that are not Moxen. This is what I was wondering. Like the oaths are just not good unless my opponent, unless I have an orchard, right? Because my opponent just has no creatures in their deck. Yeah, they can just play the pass game. See what happens, I guess. Orchard. All right. Well, we're pretty close to casting Atraxa, which is nice. Maybe I'm supposed to actually get a Bayou instead of a Trop here. Can't imagine this works out well for me, but like they should never counter this. Are they gonna counter this? We'll just let it happen if they counter this. I could they can't even like Oko a Moxen or anything. Yeah. All right. Cool. I mean, I got too much mana and not enough good stuff. If we draw an Atraxa, we can cast it though, so that's something. We're just so dead. Our deck is just so bad compared to their deck. It just does not it does not function. Their deck is pure a well-oiled machine and we're just flopping around. Sure, you got it. We're such an idiot. I should have mulliganed this hand. I need to do something forcing. I need to have turn 1 Orchard Oath. It was a bad keep. It was a bad keep. I should just never keep such a hand. If I had drawn a blue card, it's like a little bit better, right? Because if I had drawn a blue card here, my hand is force and trap online. But it's probably not even good enough, right? They have 4 cards in hand. Like the really bad part about this hand right now is I don't actually have 2 counter spells online. I have fake 2 counter spells. Yeah, they just have force backup. They have Fact or Fiction in their deck. They're literally playing random magic cards, man. Like I have a force, but I just can't cast it. Maybe I'm just not supposed to. I was wrong. I should not have cast this oath. I should have just held open hard cast force Mindbreak Trap. That was the problem. I think I was just too tilted. I'm sorry, chat. I played badly and threw 5-0 away. It's just so tilting to play against Doomsday because it just feels like nothing you do absolutely like nothing matters. Like they're just gonna be the better deck and kill you anyways. I don't know. Like I misplayed, right? I shouldn't have played my oath. That was definitely wrong. But I play. Does it matter? Like does it actively matter? Probably not. I should have mulliganed, and then I misplayed, and game 1 I think was fine. We just didn't have the right deck. Not bad though. It's a 4-1, only losing to a rough matchup. We didn't draw any of the Thoughtseizes. It's really awkward because I got 2 of the matchups that I wanted to test my Thoughtseizes against, and I just never drew them right. But yeah, that was a much more convincing league than any of my previous oath outings, which makes me a little bit happier. I don't know if this is the exact configuration I'll play in Eternal Weekend, but it's probably likely, so we'll see. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more vintage content every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on this YouTube channel, 11 a.m., I'll see you then.